View 5 uses the intarsia method because we have some little topia trees on either side. So for me, I need these 4 colours plus I need 2 extra tiny balls of those. So you need about 2 meters of this taken off separately and about 8.5 meters of this, and these are to make the plant pot and the tree at one side. So just prepare those in advance because you don't want to be messing about trying to get things either from the inside of the ball or from the other end of the ball to make them. So we are going to start off. For me, I have got yarn A and high, which is cream for me, and I've already done a 38 chain. So row 1 is nice and simple. We're going to do a treble in the 4th chain from the hook, so that's 1, 2, 3. That's my 4th chain. You missed 3 chain count as your first treble. So then, as we've done on quite a few of the others, we're starting with a simple row of trebles. So we're going to work all the way to the end, and you'll have 36 stitches when you've finished, and that will include the 3 chain at the beginning. Oops, I did a double there instead of a treble. So I'll join you at the end of this row again because you don't need to watch me do a whole row of trebles. So we'll come back with row 2 in a moment. Okay. Okay, so I've got my 30 blue stitches in the middle, and I've got my little extra bit of yarn here. So this is the extra 2 meters that we did, and I'm going to pull that when I can get hold of it, slip her in. There we go. So I now complete the final 3 trebles in this yarn. So that's 1, 2, and then the 3rd one is worked into this set of 3 here. Now you have the choice of sort of trying to pick through one of those loops. I don't tend to do that. I just like to go into the hole. Entirely up to you. So I've used that last loop as a stitch there. Depends how you feel about the edgings. I'm quite happy with that, but you may prefer to sort of trying to get into one of the loops, but I'll leave that with you. So that is the end of row 2, and we'll work out next which side is the right side, which side is the wrong side. Actually, this is the right side. Might as well do that now. So you do want all your threads running across the back, so when you turn over for the next row, and that's the wrong side, any stray threads need to be at that side. So we'll come back in a moment with row 3. Okay, so we've finished row 1. I've got my 36 stitches, and I have now changed to yarn D. So as normal, we've pulled through the final loops with the new colour, and then we need a chain of 3. So as you know, I like to do one with the tail, and then I pick up the working yarn and do the other 2, and that does count as the first treble. We're now going to do another 2 trebles, 1 into each of the next 2 stitches. And as we do the second one, don't forget we are now going to change yarn again. Sorry. Excuse me. And for me, the yarn D is this lovely sax. So I'm going to change over on the final pull through with that. So it's a bit fiddly, rather a lot of strings going on here. And then we are carrying on. Don't carry your threads across the back. The intarsia method is where obviously you or for those of you that don't know, where you use these small balls of colour. So when we get to the other end, I'm going to be using this little ball that I wound off earlier. So I now need to do 30 trebles going across here. So you can soon end up a little bit tangled. So I'm just going to try and pull those over to one side. And I'll just do another one. So these are UK trebles. So what you've done is your chain of 3 at the beginning, which we can pull a little bit tighter when we finished and we sew in. So you've a chain of 3, you've 2 of the trebles in this lovely apricot. Then I've changed to this lovely blue colour. I'm going to work all the way across to the last 3 stitches, and when I've got 3 stitches left, I'm going to be joining this in. So we'll pick back up in a moment when we've got to the other end of the row. Okay, so row 3, we're going to start with a chain of 3 and a treble into the next stitch, and then we're going to work 2 trebles into the next stitch, but you're not going to actually be increasing, because also remember at the end of this one we need to change back to the blue. Don't pull it too tight, but also you don't want too big a loop leaving there. So you've 2 stitches there. We're then going to miss the next stitch, so that's the first of the blue stitches, and we're going to work into the second stitch along. So I'll just do a couple of trebles there and then show you. So here you can see we've got the chain of 3, we've got a treble, and then we've got 2 trebles into that stitch, which is creating a slightly V shape. Keep these threads at the back because this is the wrong side. Then we've picked up the blue again, and we're going to work in total 28 of the blue trebles. So you'll stop just short of the peach at the other end. So I'll pause the video, let you get to the other end, and then we'll pick up when we get to those last few stitches. Okay, so I've got to my 28th stitch, I've stopped just short there, and I'm going to pull through with the peachy yarn. And then this is a little bit fiddly because you're sort of covering yourself up a little bit there. You want to do 2 trebles into that first apricot stitch, and then 1 treble into that treble, and 1 treble into the 3 chain at the beginning. So you can see, remember this is the back, so that does look slightly messier than it'll look rather nice at the front. So that's where you are. I'm going to pause now before I start row 4, because I find having all these loose ends a bit annoying. I tend to then sew those in and get them out of the way so that I don't keep catching them when I'm crocheting. Entirely up to you, but I'm going to do that before I start row 4. So we'll see you again in a moment. Right, so here we are. Row 4 is a very tricky row, so we're going to work through it very, very slowly and introduce colours as we go along. So I'm starting off with a chain of 3 and then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 trebles into the final stitch, and before I complete it I need to swap to the blue yarn for that final pull through of that final stitch. Now because we've done that increase one there, we're going to miss a stitch and work into the next one, and we're doing 2 stitches in the blue. Oops. Now I've stopped there because we're now going to introduce the black. So this is the beginning of the railings that we're doing. So pull the black through. Now this first stitch, this is a new one that we've not done before in this video. So this is a front post quintuple treble. Hope I've said that right. So basically you are going to wrap 5 times and try and keep that fairly taut. So you've got your original stitch and then 5 wraps there, and then you'll see here I've marked some stitches. I'm just going to anchor that in there so I don't lose it. So here I've put stitch markers in, and the first one is the 8th stitch. So there's 7 stitches here, that's your 8th stitch. Then you count 6 stitches and mark your 7th, and you do that 3 times. So in each of these there's 6 stitches in between. I've done this because while everything else is happening, to then have to try and count across can be quite tricky. So that's why I have done that, and I'm now going to set my hand back up so I've got some good tension on the yarn. Bring that through. So we've now got 7 loops there. So it's round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. When we get to the last one, just to make things even more tricky, we are now going back to the blue yarn. So the final pull through is done with the blue. And again, I would set your hand up so your tension is right there. And then we need to miss a stitch, and that's important because you've worked into that stitch but on that bottom row. So make sure you miss a stitch. If you don't, you'll end up with too many stitches left at the end of the row. And then this time, with the black only, we're carrying it across the back. So I have caught that in as I've done the treble, and we're now going to do 6 trebles. Just double checking my numbers there. So we've got 6 trebles, and you can see I'm catching the black yarn as neatly as possible into the back. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and as we get to the end of the 6th stitch, we're going to bring the black back in to play. Okay, again, get some good tension on your yarn for this. Wrap again 5 times. 3, 4, 5. Keep them fairly tight on there, or you do end up with a very baggy stitch. So you've 6 loops at the moment because you have the original one plus 5 wraps. Then in, across. Okay, then grab that, bring that back through, and then repeat again, round and through 2, round and through 2, and you do that until you're back to 2 loops, and then swap again, grab the blue yarn, pull that through, and then make sure again that you miss a stitch, go into the next one and work another 6. Oh, what did I forget? I haven't carried the black yarn across, so let's start that little bit again. Really important to keep things neat. So miss a stitch, work the next one, catching the black yarn at the back. A lot to remember on this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6th stitch, pull through with the black, work another quintuple treble, front post treble as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you don't lose any. Across the front. Okay, keeping that reasonably tight. Round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, through 2, round and through 2. Get to the end. I'm getting all snarled up now. And that last pull through with the blue yarn. Okay. As you can see, don't rush this. You will guaranteed to get it wrong if you do. Miss a stitch into the next one. Keep your black yarn tucked at the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the 6th one, and for this row we're on that final swap over to the black again. And the last of the front post quintuple trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't want to go wrong at this stage, do we? And round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. You can see I'm actually holding on to this rather than the rest of the crochet. I just find that easier. And then the final swap onto the blue yarn, and this time we're not carrying the black across the back. We don't need to. So we now need to work, we're missing that one, we're going to work into the next 2 trebles, and as at the other end we're now working with some of the peach yarn, so that final pull through is with that lovely peachy coloured yarn. Miss a stitch because we're going to work 2 trebles into the first of the peach stitches, and then we finish on 3 individual trebles. So so as I said, very tricky row that one. Don't rush it. Do make sure you've carried your threads across where you need to, so hiding the black neatly so that you don't end up with any messy loops that can snag. And I think after that row we all deserve some chocolate, so we will come back shortly with row 5. Okay, so here we are with row 5. So we need to do a chain of 3 and then 4 individual trebles. And as we get to the end of the 4th treble, we need to bring the blue in. Remember to keep all the thread to this side as this is the back. And then we need to work 26 trebles in the blue. So, that's one in every one of the blue stitches plus 1 in each of the black stitches as well. Just need a bit more thread there. So we're working 26 of these trebles and then on the final one of those blue ones, you change back to the yarn D, which is the peachy coloured yarn, and work 5 more trebles at the end. So I won't let you watch me doing all those because you don't need to. But we'll come back and show you how it looks at the end of row 5. Okay. So here we are at the end of row 5. I have actually cut off the black thread because when we start again for the next set of black threads, we are going to be starting at this end, so there's no point keeping the black thread attached. We're not going to be able to run it up the work. So as you get to the last stitch, you do need to join in the green for the topiary that we're about to do. And that does also mean that we're at the end of using the peachy coloured yarn, so I can chop that off and just move that out of the way. So I'm also going to spend just a moment or two sewing in these ends where I don't need them. We do need to keep the blue, so don't cut the blue off. But that's where you are at the end of row 5. That's how it'll look at the front. Get it right way up. Okay, so we'll join you again shortly with row 6. Okay, so row 6. I have joined with the green at the end of the last row, and we are going to start with a chain of 3. So I've got 1 with the tail and 2 with the working yarn. You'll notice on this one I've popped a couple of markers in again. This is where the blue stitches start and stop, and it's just good to have a little marker there. Up to you if you want to put them in or not. So next we're going to do a right side popcorn into the next stitch. A right side popcorn is where you work 4 UK trebles into the same hole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, so you've got like a bit of a fan shape, then you go back into, this is for the right side one for this particular pattern, so you go back into the top of the first stitch, grab that and bring it back through, and it pushes that forward. So hopefully you can see that. Then we're doing a 1 chain to give us a little bit of distance there at the back, and then we're going to miss a stitch, and then we're going to do another right side popcorn. So that's another 4 UK trebles. 2, 3, and number 4. Take your hook out of the loop, go back to the beginning one, put your hook through, bring it back through, and then we're going to do another chain, and then we're going to do another right side popcorn. I was just checking them for a horrible moment. I thought I'd missed something, but I don't think I have. just a scary moment. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to that beginning. Pull it through, and I think that gives us a nice pushed forward stitch on those. Okay, then we're doing 1 treble into the next stitch, still in the green, but then we're going to change to yarn H, which is the blue yarn. So keep all those tucked in at the back. Find the blue yarn and pull that through. So we're ready now to start our trebles. So then I can now remove that marker. It's just a nice mental reminder, or a visual reminder rather than a mental one. So we're now going to do 22 of these trebles. Simple UK treble, in the blue yarn. So rather than you having to watch me do all 22, I'll just pause the video for a moment and then we'll come back as we get to the other end. Okay, so I have worked my 22 blue trebles, and you can see I'm back to the marker, which I'm now going to remove because they can get in the way a bit. And then we are swapping to a little ball of lime green yarn that we rolled off at the beginning, and pull that through there. Leave the blue yarn behind, and then we're going to do a, oops, I haven't caught that properly. Let's try that again. Certainly don't want to split the yarn. There we go. So I'm going to set my hand up so I've got my tension right, and we are going to work one treble into the next stitch, and then right side popcorn. So, oops, move that out of the way. So 4 trebles all into the same stitch. Then take the hook out, pop your hook back in at the beginning, right. Grab that yarn again, bring it back through, and then a 1 chain just to give yourself a little bit of distance across the back. We miss the next stitch and we work another right side popcorn. So that's another 4 trebles. Again, take your hook out, go back to the beginning, grab the yarn again, bring it back through, 1 more chain, and final popcorn for this row. 2, 3, 4, hook in, grab that yarn, bring it through, and then a treble into that final stitch. There we go. So this is how we should look at the end of row 6. You've got 3 right side popcorns showing at the end to start the topiary, and the blue sea still in the middle. Okay, back shortly for row 7. Okay, row 7, which is the wrong side, we're going to do a chain of 3. Then a treble into the top of the first popcorn, so I'm going to call that the top there. And then we work a wrong side popcorn into the next gap. So you work 4 trebles as before, and then drop the loop from the hook and insert the hook from the back to the front of that. Grab the loop and pull it through. Oops, I lost it then. So that you push in the popcorn forward the other way. Okay, we'll do that again. So we do need a one chain there, and then we're going into the space between the next 2 popcorns to work the 4 trebles. Okay, then again as before, we're going from the back to the front, grabbing the loop and bringing that through. Okay, so we've got 2 popcorns now showing at the other side. Then we're going to do a treble into the top of the next popcorn along, and then 1 treble into the next stitch. And as we do this, we then need to make sure that this yarn stays at the back, so nearest to us, and then we change back to the blue, and we need to work 22 UK trebles across this section. So again, I'll pause it here, let you get to the other end, and we will pick up again and work through the combination of popcorns and trebles at the other end. Okay, we'll see you in a moment. Okay, so I've got to the point where I've worked the 22 blue trebles up to the final pull through there. Do just do a quick count because it's so easy to lose or gain one at this point, and that will throw your stitch count out later. So then we're going to work a treble into the next stitch and a treble into the top of the popcorn, and then we're going to work a wrong side popcorn into the gap. So that's 1, 2, oops, trying not to destroy the popcorns on the row below, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then coming from the back to the front and pulling that through, 1 chain, and then we're going to work another popcorn in the gap. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I always find it odd coming from the back to the front, but it is correct. So there we go, that's your 2 popcorns worked there, and then 1 treble into your next popcorn and 1 treble into the chain space that was at the beginning. Okay, so that is how it will look at the back. If I turn it over, this is what you'll have at the front. So you've got 2 more popcorns showing through, and they will pull in tighter as you do your next row. So that is row 7. We'll see you again shortly with row 8. Okay, row 8. Complex in the same way that row 4 is. So you need to work through this very slowly and think about each stage. So we're going to start with a chain of 3, and then we're going to work a right side popcorn into the next stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 trebles, then go in front to back and bring that loop through, 1 chain, and then we're going to work the next popcorn into the gap like we've done before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then front to back, grab the loop, bring it back through. Then 1 chain, miss your next popcorn, but then we're working the following popcorn into the stitch at the other side. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go in there, grab it, bring it back through. That's your 3 popcorns created. And then we do 1 treble into the next stitch. Okay, just before we get to the end, I forgot to do the yarn colour swap. Now we're doing another one of these long stitches here, so that requires black. And I will just warn you, this is going to be tricky. So trying to keep some tension on that piece of the black tail while working the other bit is quite fun. So I've got my hand set up, so I've got some tension on my yarn, and I'm also pinching that there. Okay, so this one is even longer than the last one. So this one is called a front post sextuple treble, which means you wrap 6 times. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, just double check you've got your original loop and then another 6 there, and then you go in right to left in my case and bringing some yarn back through. This is where it gets really interesting. So you're wrapping through 2, wrapping through 2, wrapping through 2, wrapping through 2 again and again, and then you really need to give a little tug, because at some point in doing all this you do lose a bit of your tension on the tail piece. So wrap and through 2. You're on your final 2 loops. The green will have gone a little bit slack, as mine has, so give that a little tug to tighten, and then just to make it extra complicated, we're now changing to the blue yarn. So where's my blue thread gone? Somewhere here at the back. There we are. So I'm just going to grab that yarn and pull it through those 2, and then give everything a bit of a tug to try and make sure I've tightened up where I can. Okay, now I've left a marker there and in some of the others, and that's the stitch that we're not going to work into because we've worked into the one several rows below. So what we do need to remember is, because we're about to start to do a set of 6 UK trebles, but we need to bring the black yarn along with us. So, as we've done once before, we hold the black yarn at the back. I can now take that out because I've made sure I'm not working into that stitch, and I'm going to work my 6 trebles, catching in the black yarn as I go. 3, 4, 5, 6, which takes me very neatly to the next marker that I've put in, and that should also remind me to swap back to the black yarn and bring that through for the final stitch. Okay, so we're going to do another 6 wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, get them reasonably tight because things do seem to get slacker as you go along. Pull that through, and then wrapping through 2, wrap through 2, wrapping through 2, wrapping through 2, wrapping through 2 again, wrap and through 2, at which point we are left with 2, and swap back to the blue yarn. Okay, so don't forget we need to carry the black yarn across the back. Again, we're missing that stitch that's got the marker in, and we're going to do another 6 trebles but carrying the black along the back. That's 4, 5, I've got to the 6th one, and again we're now wanting to swap away from the blue and onto the black yarn. And then you've got it, we do another 6 reps, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 4, 6. Okay, find which way works for you. I've just felt that, I've tried holding the hook a slightly different way and I've found that that works better, but there's no right or wrong to that, just whatever works best. So I'm going to wrap and through 2, wrap through 2, wrap and through 2, wrap and through 2, wrap and through 2, wrap and through another 2, and when I've got 2 loops left, I go back to the blue yarn. Okay, so that's the final wrap and through 2, which takes me back to the blue yarn. Again, remembering we need to carry the black along with us. We're ignoring the one where we've got the marker in, and we're working another 6 trebles, again carrying the black across the back. 2, it's curling on me now, never mind. 3, 4, 5, onto my 6th one, so pause before the final pull through on the last 2 stitches, go back to the black, pull through. Okay, and then as we said before, wrap 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 4, 6 plus the 7th one that's already there, through from right to left, pull it through. Oops, there we go. Let my tension go a little bit there, which doesn't help. Right, wrap through 2, and through 2, wrap through 2, wrap through 2, wrap through 2, wrap through 2 to your final 2, and then as we get to this point we are changing to yarn G, which is the lime. Okay, as I said before, don't worry too much if one or two things seem a little, one point there, nearly forgot, do make sure that the black yarn has ended up at the back. Okay, very easy to suddenly find you've got a random loop at the front. You then, the only way to get rid of it is really to pull the piece of work back. Something just fell over. Okay, so we're back to the G yarn. So 1 treble into the first treble. Then we're going to do a right side popcorn. So just do that, make sure I keep my tension right. 1, 2, 3, 4, into there, grab that yarn, bring it through, and one chain, miss your popcorn, work into the gap, so work in another popcorn, right side popcorn, 2, 3, 4, pull that through, and then one more chain, and then we're working the popcorn into the next stitch. One, 2, 3, 4, in there, grab that, bring that back through, and then a final treble. And I think we've got everything there. So I'm just going to sit quietly and count through my stitches and make sure that everything's where it should be. I recommend that you do the same, and then we'll pick up again for row 9. Okay. Okay, here we are with row 9. So we're going to do 3 chain, which counts as your first stitch, and a treble into the top of the first popcorn. And then we're going to do a wrong side popcorn into the space. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, as it's a wrong side popcorn, I can get my stitch out, my hook out, you go from the back to the front, grab that loop and pull it through so that it pushes the popcorn through to the other side. And then we do a 1 chain, and then we're going to do another wrong side popcorn. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, then front and back to the front, pull that through. Okay, then we do 1 treble into the top of the next popcorn, but we're at this point now, so make sure this yarn comes towards you, because of course we're working across the back. We then grab the blue, and we're going to start, this one's going to be slightly odd, I wouldn't pull this too tight because you can actually catch it in if you need to. So we're now going to work 24 stitches, 24 trebles, which means we're going to have to start working in one of the green stitches. Okay, and then we're going to work 1 into the black stitch, and that's probably an ideal time just to catch that extra piece of thread. And then you're working 1 into every stitch across the blue to the other end and into each of the black stitches as you go over it. So basically it's a treble into every stitch until you get to the green, and then you just work 1 treble into the green. So as you can see, I've done those all into the blue. Make sure you work 1 into the black as well. So you don't have to watch me do them all. We'll do a little brief pause and pick up again at this end. Okay, so we're nearly at the other end. I'm working a treble into that final blue stitch, a treble into the black one, and then a treble into the popcorn stitch. As we get to this point here, you need to remember, keep this yarn to the back and swap back to the green. Okay, then it's one treble into the popcorn and then a wrong side popcorn into that gap there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's a wrong side one, so you're coming in from the back to the front, grab the loop, bring that back through, one chain, and then we're going to do another popcorn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the hook out, bring it from the back to the front, grab it, pull that back through, and then one treble into the top of the next popcorn and one treble into that final stitch, which is the chain of 3 at the end. So that's how we look at the back. But a bit more exciting is how we look at the front. So you can see you've got 2 popcorn stitches there. Okay, we'll pause there for a moment and come back with row 10. Okay, back with row 10. So we have a chain of 3 and a right side popcorn into the top of the next stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the hook out, go for that first stitch, grab it, bring it back through, one chain and another right side popcorn into the gap between the 2 popcorns on the row below. Nice and easy to find. 3, 4. Into that first one, grab it, bring it back through, and then we're now not working with the popcorn, so we don't need a 1 chain, we need a treble into that popcorn, but we're also needing to now change yarn because the blue rows are now getting slightly longer again. So for this final pull through, we've got the blue yarn, and then we're going to work 26 trebles. So that means working 1 at this end into, you can catch that blue yarn if you wish at the back, just up to you. So 1 into the last green stitch, and then we're going to work 24 across the blue row, and when we get to the other end, so it'll be 25 you'll have in total, because if you include that stitch you've done there. So as you get to the other end, you're going to work 1 into the first green stitch, and then at that point we'll come back and finish off the popcorns at the other end. Okay, so we're just going to pause for a moment there and we'll come back with the video shortly. Okay, so here we are at the other end, and I'm working on the final stitch, which is stitch number 26, and we've worked that into the green there. So we then do the final pull through with the green and make sure that the blue yarn then goes to the back of the work. Okay, so we've got 1 treble into the top of the next popcorn, and then a popcorn into the space, and again it's a front popcorn or a right side popcorn. 3, and that's 4. Then we go in there, grab that yarn, oops, grab the yarn, bring it back through, a 1 chain, and there isn't a gap here, you've got to work it into the stitch. So we've missed the popcorn and we're now working into the treble that was worked on the row below. So 2, 3, 4, then we go into that first one, front to back, grab that, bring it back through, and then we work a treble into the final stitch, which is the chain 3 of the row below. So you should end up with 2 popcorns at either end, and you can see how the blue is starting to edge back out again. So that's the end of row 10, and we'll join you again shortly with row 11. Okay, here we are with row 11. So we have a chain of 3 and a treble into the top of the first popcorn, and then a wrong side popcorn into the chain space. So 1, 2, 3, 4 trebles. Then we go from the back to the front, grab that, take it back through. Then we're working 1 treble into the next popcorn, and 1 treble into the next stitch, and that takes us to that point. Now we are changing colour, so we're moving from the bright blue, the sax colour, to, for me, it's cloud, and that's yarn J, whichever one that one is for you, and you bring that one through to those. Now when you're ready, you can then cut the cloud and sort of tie those ends in, get them out of the way. Make sure that all these threads stay at the back. Don't forget that this is the back of the yarn of the work, and you want the yarns to run down this side, not the other. You're then going to work standard UK trebles all the way across the bright blue stitches of the row below. So you should have 26 in the cloud by the time you've finished. So I'll just pause you the video and let you work through so that you've got your 26, and we'll pick up at the end. Don't forget to change the yarn colour for the last pull through of the last stitch. So we'll see you again in a moment at the other end of the row. Okay, so this is where we've got to, and we're on to the 26 stitches. I'm just about to finish the final one, so again making sure that all these threads are at the back, not the front, and then we're going to work a treble into, just check I'm getting in the right stitch, into the next stitch, and 1 treble into the top of the popcorn stitch, and then we're working a popcorn, wrong side popcorn, into here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, going in from, oops, no, nearly got that wrong way, back to the front, grab it, bring it back through, and then 1 treble into the top of the next popcorn. Oops, start again with that one. And a treble then into that final stitch. So that's the back, all these threads nicely running down the back, and that's the front. So you're down to where you've just got one popcorn stitch at either side. So we'll stop there for row 11 and we'll join you again shortly for row 12. Okay, here we are with row 12. So we're going to start off with a chain of 3, and then we're going to do a right side popcorn into the next stitch. So that's 4 trebles, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go back to the first of those 4 stitches, front to back, because it's a right side popcorn, and pull that through. Then we're going to work another right side popcorn, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, front to back, grab the stitch, bring it back through, and then another treble, only this time we're now bringing in the black for the rest of the railings. So I'm going to pull that through on that final pull through there, just tighten up the green a little, find the working yarn, make sure all your tails are at the back because of course you're on the front of the work. I think it's easier when you're working on the front of the work to remember to push everything to the back. Right, 1 treble into each of the next 3 stitches, so that's 1 in the first green, 2 in the blue. The chart that goes with this is actually quite useful to just make sure that you're starting things in the right place. Now, because we've got some more of the long stitches, this time we're working the quintuple trebles. So we're about to work one here, so I'm going to be missing that stitch, and where I've marked each stitch is where we're working another one. So your quintuple trebles are where you wrap 5 times, and this is slightly easier I think this time because you've already got some stable black stitches there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, shove them on a bit, and 5. Then we're going round from the right to the left, the way I'm working this. I'm guessing you could work all these from the left hand side as well if you were left-handed and it worked for you that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this time 6 because we're going to carry on with the black. We're not having to remember to change colour. So we miss that stitch and then we start to work trebles in the next one. So as before, we've got 6 trebles between each of the very long stitches. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've reached the next marked stitch, so we're doing another of the front post quintuples. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there we go. Yep, so I've got 6 stitches in total because of the first one. Then we're going right to left to grab some yarn, and 1, 2, 3, 4, whoops, nearly did a double there, 5, 6, and then again we're doing another 6 trebles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Back at the next mark, stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Right to left as before, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wrapping through 2s, then round into this, and another 6 stitches, another 6 UK trebles. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're on with the final one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They definitely get easier when you've worked a few. And round through 2, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And 1, 2, 3. So we're ending in the green stitch there, and you then need to find that extra green yarn that we've got to pull through the last stitch, and then we want 1 treble in green. Just anchor that yarn a bit better, and then a front popcorn, so 1, 2, 3, 4 trebles, go through back to the first one, through front to back, grab, bring it back through, another popcorn stitch, and we're very nearly at the end here, so hopefully you've just got your chain of 3 left at the end at this point. Stitch markers are definitely the way to go with some of these because it makes life just so much easier. Grab that, oops, pull it through, and then a final treble into the end. And there we have row 12. So you can really see the topiary starting there, looking good. This is the first of the balustrade pieces. So yeah, that one seemed much easier than some of the others, and I'm sure it's because you were using the black all the way along, rather than having to keep remembering to change colours and carry things across. So right, we'll join you again shortly with row 13. Okay, so row 13, slightly different. 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch. 1 UK double crochet into the first stitch, and then another double crochet on top of each of the popcorn stitches, followed by a final one into the last of the green stitches, and we're going to now change to black, so remember to keep your threads to the front. So let's pull that through there. Okay. Right, 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. We're now back at the long marked stitch here, and this time we're working a back post half treble. So you wrap as though you're going to do a treble, but then you go from right to left round there, bring it back through. So you feel a bit like you're working on the wrong side of the work, and then round and through all three at once. I'll show you that one again in a minute. We're then going to do 6 double crochets, 1 into each of those next 6 stitches. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So another back post half treble. So wrap as normal, but then go round there, bring that back through, and then round and through all 3, and then onto your next stitch. So we're going to do another 6, and this helps to anchor that stitch and also sort of makes it slightly more prominent, which gives that lovely 3D effect to the work. Okay, so wrap, pick up that loop or that long thread and bring it back through, round and through all 3, and then we're on our final set of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the final one, wrap under that one, bring it back through, wrap through all 3, and then we should be at the other end, and we're going to do 1, oops, what's that one? Yeah, it's got slightly hooked somewhere. Never mind. We're on the last one now, so we now, where have you gone? There we go. Bring that right round to there. Find the working yarn in the green and bring that through. And then we are working 4 again. So 1 double crochet into the next green one, 1 into the top of each of the 2 popcorns. Second one's always a little bit tricky to find, I think. There we go. As long as they're neat and even, that's the main thing. And then find that final chain of 3 and pull that through. So this is how I'm looking at the back. Can't tell an awful lot of difference with it being double crochet. It's such a subtle difference, but on the front you can see now how you've got your balustrade there, nice and neat, everything's anchored, it just feels that bit more secure. So that's row 13. We'll be back again in a moment with row 14. Hope you're finding this useful. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, so we're back with row 14. I've just spent a couple of minutes sewing ends in because you know how I hate having ends floating around. We've finished with the black now, so I've sewn that one off. We now just need the lime green and this paler blue. So let's try and get started. I've got a chain of 3, which counts as your first stitch, and then a right side popcorn into each of these next 2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 UK trebles, going back to that first stitch, and I've gone front to back because it's the right side popcorn, pulled that through, and then we're going to do another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, pull that through, and then we've got a treble into this stitch. I'm going to pause there because we're changing yarns. So I've got the blue. You may want to, this is personal choice here, you may want to cut that off, sew the end in, and then start again with it fresh at this point. I'm choosing to just leave a little thread. I think for the size of that thread, I don't feel it's going to be a problem. I've got one or two others further down because of how it shapes. So entirely up to you. If you would prefer to cut that off and start with this thread new, please do. If not, carry it forward like I've done. Now we've got a treble, so we're doing a treble in the back loop of each of the next 28 stitches. I nearly forgot to do it in the back loop then. So you have to find the back loop of each of the black stitches. So hopefully you can see, oops, just move that there. Hopefully you can see there the love heart row. It's a little bit more difficult to see in the black than in the other colours, but just make sure you're doing this under a good light. And so we're working a UK treble into each of these back loops, and that will give the railing a slightly more prominent look. It's subtle, but it works. So basically we're going to do that all the way across this row, all the black stitches. So I won't make you watch me do that 28 times, but when we get to the other end, just check that you've got your 28, because obviously that affects the next row, and you should work the last one into this stitch before we change yarns again to work the final bit of the green. So I'll join you again in a minute with at the other end of the row. Okay, so I have got my 28 stitches. I've changed yarn at the end of the final stitch, and we're now working the last few stitches here. So I need to work, oh, not a double, I need to work a treble, and then 2 right side popcorns into the next 2 stitches. 2, 3, 4, and then obviously pull that through like we've done quite a few times now, and the next one. So 1, 2, oops, not doing so well on this one, slow down, 3, 4, again pull that through, and then the final stitch is a treble. It's fighting with me, but never mind, we won. There we go. So that's row 14 all complete. As you can see, we're going to sort of run out of topiary shortly, so we're getting to where it actually, I suppose, really gets a bit easier. So we'll see you again in a moment in row 15. Okay, row 15. So we have a chain of 3, and then a wrong side popcorn into the top of the first popcorn, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's this one. Make sure I get into the right one. So 1, oops, I seem to have snagged myself somewhere. 2, 3, 4, and then we go from the back to the front because we're on the wrong side popcorn, and a final treble into the top of the next popcorn. Oops, nearly forgot to change my yarn. Now I've not got a huge amount of yarn left there. You may want to add a little bit extra, I suppose. I will pop that into the instructions beforehand. Make sure it's got the extras in, because that's the end of my sort of 10 metres of yarn. So depending on, maybe I've been a little bit generous, not sure. Anyway, I'll pop a little note in. It might be better, I think, to maybe go to slightly more yarn, but we'll do that with the written instructions, because also you'll need those as you go along. So we've changed to the next yarn, and we're now going to work just standard UK trebles all the way across till you get to the next green. That will be 30 stitches in total. So I won't make you watch me do 30 trebles. We'll come back in a moment at the other end of the row just to finish that off. Okay, I've got my 30 stitches there across the centre, and we go back to the green. We're going to do one treble, and then a wrong side popcorn, 2, 3, 4. So back to front, pull it through, and then our final treble, and right at the end we now need to go to yarn J, because we have done all the tricky bits now, and we're getting on to the easier section of sky at the top. So that's how we should look. You can afterwards just go through and make your popcorns back to being a bit more prominent. They can get a bit squished while you're working, but they soon pop back up. So that's the end of row 15. We'll be back in a moment to talk through the next section. Okay, so we really are onto the lovely easy stuff now. We start with a chain of 3 at the beginning of the row, and then we're working trebles across here. So you've got, for this row, you've got the equivalent of 3 trebles into the green. So that's 1, 2, 3, because remember that counts as a stitch. You then go in to work a treble, or oops, just don't want to catch that green. Let's just pull that out of the way, sneaking in where it's not wanted. So yeah, we're going to work trebles all the way across the blue, and then 3 trebles at the end into the green section at the end. So that's 1, 2, and then the third one into the end bit there. Basically we're working 36 trebles or 35 trebles and a chain of 3 at the beginning. Now you're going to keep doing that until you get to row 21. So basically it's a chain of 3 and a row of trebles right up to row 21 now. And then at the end of row 21 you need to join in yarn A, and then we'll start to do the border. So I'm going to come back when I've worked those rows and we're ready to work the border. Okay, so here we are at the end of row 21. So that's what you're aiming for. And I haven't quite finished off the last stitch, because this is where we need to change back to yarn A, which for me is the cream. So I'm going to do that in a moment and then start the border for you. So we'll join you again with round 1 of the border. Okay, right, so we have added in the cream yarn now by pulling through on the last stitch of the previous row, and this border is worked the same as some of the other borders that we've already done. So you do a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch. As you know, I like to do that with the tail yarn, and then we're going to be working across. So the first thing we do is slip stitch into the second. Just feel a little bit loose there. Let's just pull that a bit tighter. That's it. We're going to slip stitch across. So you go into the hole and then just pull the yarn straight through, so into the hole that you're wanting to be in. Then we're doing a chain of 3, oops, and 2 trebles into the same hole, and this is where we're going to be doing the same as we've done on the previous one. So you miss 2 stitches, so miss 2, work into your 3rd. Okay, and it's sets of 3 trebles as we've done before, going all the way to the end of the row. So what I'll do, I'll work to the end of the row and then we'll do a quick recap on corners and then have a look at the sides. Okay, so we'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so we're at the corner and we've got 12 sets of 3 running nice and evenly down this side. On the corners you do 2 chain, and then again you want to evenly space your sets of 3 down the side. So I've done a little bit of pre-planning here, which I do recommend you do too. So I'm going to work 1 into this row and that row and that row, and then it got a little bit more tricky because these bobbles are not as easy to see where you might want to work into. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 and 6 are going there, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 going down the row. So I'm putting them into these bigger holes here, so I think that'll work best. It's this bit where I'm just going to have to be a bit careful that it doesn't get too bunched up, but it's always worth taking a little bit of time to think about this because you can end up doing it and pulling it back and doing it and pulling it back. So and as each square has a slightly different combination with the rows, you're going to find that the sides of each square just take a little bit more thought when you're working your sets of 3. So what I'll do, I'll finish working down this side and then I'll do you a close-up of where I've worked all the individuals, just so that it might help give you some tips on where you might want to work your trebles or sets of 3. Okay, we'll be back in a minute. I'll show you the details. Okay, so this is where I've chosen to work my 12 sets. This is the bit where it got a little bit odd, but that's partly as well because of the popcorn stitches. So don't worry, because we are going to work another border around this border which will straighten it so that it fits perfectly with the other stitches. So you've got again 12 sets down here. We're aiming each side for 12 sets. Then it's a chain of 2 and then we're working across the bottom, so you're missing this end stitch where you've done here. That's the stitch you're missing, and then you start working your sets of trebles again in every 3rd of the loops across the bottom. You have done this before. 1, 2 into the 3rd. Again, count carefully. It's easy to miss a stitch and then suddenly find that you've run out of loops to work in when you get to the other end. So be really sort of mindful of 1, 2, 3 for that. Okay, we'll come back to you at the end of this row just to give you a close-up of how it looks, and then start the final one round. Okay, so again I've done a bit of prep on this one. We've got to to the end of this row here, we've got 12 sets of 3, and we're going to do the usual 2 chain for the corner. Now, just to demonstrate, I've popped quite a lot of stitch markers in here. I'm going to start here with my first set of 3 trebles and then move down, so hopefully you can see quite clearly there where I've decided to work them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it's going to be 10, 11, 12, so that I end up working in that final corner up here to join the others. So hopefully you can get a good view of what I've done there. Obviously it's your crochet, if you want to do it slightly differently do, but you need to end up with 12 sets of trebles again along the side, and then we'll finish off with a chain of 2 and a slip stitch, and I'll do you a quick viewing when I've finished. Okay, so this is the side I've just finished, and you can see how, as with the other side, there's a slight sort of bobbled section there. But don't worry about it, as long as everything's evenly spaced and looking neat. And I've finished with 2 chain and a slip stitch there. So for the next round you turn the work and work back in the other direction, so it's we'll come to that in just a second. Okay, round 2. So we're on the back of the work. I have a few tails to sew in, but not many, and we start as usual with a chain of 3. That counts as the final stitch of this row, so we're immediately going to work a corner, which is 2 trebles, 1 chain and another 2 trebles. Okay, so nice and easy for the corner, and all the corners are exactly the same. We then work a treble into every stitch across the row, so that's for every side. You've done this before, so it doesn't need a great deal of demonstration, I don't feel. So just work your way down each side. So down all 12 sets of 3. When you get to your corner, it's 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles, turn, and then start immediately in the first stitch. You will end up with 40 stitches going round when you've done. So there's 40 stitches, that includes what's in the corner, and then you'll have that single chain in each corner as well. So we'll come back at the end just to show you the final square. But yeah, nice and easy compared to what we've been doing for the last hour or so. Okay, see you again soon. Okay, so here we are, all finished, and I think it's a beautiful square, this, really pleased with it. As Eleonora suggested in other ones, last time she left things so that there was a little bit of a gap here and there that you could fill yourselves, so maybe you could put a sun or a moon in there, depending on whether you're doing the daytime one or the evening one. Maybe you could put some flowers running up one of these, I want to say stems, but they're not, out of the railings. All sorts you could do on there, so please be creative and please let us see what you've done. It was so much fun last time watching what extras you'd added on. So yeah, go for it, be creative, and let's see what you come up with. Okay, we'll see you in the next one.